Hey, how's it going everybody? It's Tanner here, and welcome back to a new Ninjago video here on the channel. In today's video, we are going to be discussing some of Ninjago's least evil villains. This is, of course, the second part to my, evil villains series, if you will. I previously did a video talking about Ninjago's most evil villains, and with the villains on that list, I tried to go for villains that were pretty much, just ruthless to the core. Villains that never really had a chance at redemption, or, of course, just didn't choose to redeem themselves. In this list, it's going to be the complete opposite. These are villains from Ninjago's run that pretty much redeemed themselves at one point or another, essentially not making them complete bad guys. Of course, some of the villains on this list are still definitely evil to say the least, but they aren't as evil as some of the villains on my most evil villains list. These guys kind of have a few redeeming factors and they aren't all bad, so we're going to pretty much be going through them in today's video. Now again, the villains on this list, this is not every single villain that's not entirely evil throughout Ninjago's run. There are certainly more characters that I could have added to this list. These are just a few characters throughout Ninjago's run that I do want to talk about and highlight in this video, because I do want to talk about their redemption stories just a little bit more, and in a way I am kind of looking forward to doing this video more than the other one, just because I really like redemption arcs, I really like redemption stories, and these villains pretty much deliver the best redemption stories throughout Ninjago's run, so that's why I'm kind of excited to do this video. As a quick disclaimer right away, again, this is in no particular order, this is just a list of a few villains that I want to talk about, so hopefully you guys enjoy, and after the video is done, feel free to tell me in the comments section which villain you think is the least evil. Which villain has the most chance of turning good? Let me know down below in the comment section. So let's go ahead and get started here by talking about MORRO. Now, MORRO is a fan favorite character for a lot of reasons, and I agree he is a pretty good character. MORRO was the main bad guy in Season 5 Possession, and he was kind of, jealous of Lloyd, if you will, for being the Green Ninja, as MORRO was trained by Master Wu back in the day, and was led to believe that he could be the Green Ninja, and that's pretty much where his jealousy started to, take over him. After he realized that he wasn't the Green Ninja, he kind of went on a desperate quest in order to prove to Wu that he was worthy, of course, dying in the process. But when he came back as a ghost, he was absolutely, full head to toe with evil and jealousy, and that's pretty much what motivated his character there. In the same way that Kai from the Ninja deals with jealousy a lot, MORRO is basically dealing with jealousy on an extremely higher level. MORRO throughout Season 5 was pretty much driven by that, to the point where he basically possessed Lloyd's body and kind of refused to, let him go until his destiny was, twisted into what he wanted it to be. But towards the end of Possession, he actually realized what he did wrong. MORRO basically gave up the Realm Crystal to Master Wu before perishing at the hands of the Preeminent, and kind of recognized what he did wrong and made one final, reconciled moment with Wu before finally dying and perishing away. In Day of the Departed, when MORRO returned alongside several other Ninjago villains, MORRO was the only one of the villains that came back that chose to help out Wu and the ninja. So that right away pretty much confirms that MORRO nowadays isn't so much a villain as much as he is kind of like an ally to the ninja. Of course, he's no longer around anymore, but I feel like if MORRO were to return eventually, he would be an ally. He would possibly be even a ninja. I feel like he's not a villain anymore because he recognized what he did wrong and he made up with Wu, and even was going as far as to help the ninja in Day of the Departed when all of the other bad guys were on a quest for revenge. So right away, MORRO is probably the first one that comes to mind when I think about redeemable Ninjago villains. MORRO is pretty much up there with a few of the other characters on this list in terms of not being completely evil. But I did want to talk about MORRO first because he's a fan favorite character, so let's move on to the next character on this list. Another fan favorite character from Ninjago is HARUMI. Now, HARUMI as a villain did a lot of really bad stuff. She basically turned to villainy when she saw the Great Devourer's rampage in the original Ninjago season. Her parents were casualties in that attack, but she idolized Garmadon for his victory over the giant snake, and throughout several of Ninjago's seasons, she was kind of in the background doing her own thing, kind of still idolizing Garmadon, and finally in Season 8, when she made her debut, she decided to basically organize a street gang known as the Sons of Garmadon to successfully revive Lord Garmadon, only the evil parts though. Garmadon, when he came back, he was not good in the slightest, and HARUMI was responsible for that. HARUMI unfortunately met her demise in Season 9 when a building basically fell on top of her, but in that moment she kind of looked across to Lloyd, who of course was kind of, having a thing with HARUMI throughout the entirety of Season 8 and 9. It was kind of back and forth, and HARUMI was pretty much using Lloyd to get to the Oni masks, but Lloyd in this moment kind of recognized that HARUMI actually did care about him. And it's something that I've talked about on the channel before, before, but Harumi in this moment, I feel like absolutely recognized what she did and absolutely recognized her true feelings for Lloyd, and Lloyd kind of recognized that feeling and kind of reciprocated that to Harumi. I genuinely feel like Harumi recognized what she did wrong before her demise, and this is even backed up further by her actions before she actually perished. She, of course, rescued a child from the building, as she basically didn't want that kid to go down the same path that she did, so she rescued him, and that actually led to her demise, but at least she did one good thing before she actually went ahead and exited the series by dying after a building fell on top of her. But in that moment, you can't really deny that Harumi recognized what she did wrong and tried to help out in some way, so that's why she's on the list. She did a lot of evil things throughout Ninjago's run and throughout her character's run, but overall, at the end, when it was all said and done, she absolutely redeemed herself, in my own opinion, so that's why she's on the list. If Harumi were to come back nowadays, I feel like she would be an ally as well, probably in the same style as MORRO, so that's pretty much why she's on this list. A few people were expecting to see Garmadon in the most evil villains category, especially within the season 8 and 9 context for Garmadon, because when Garmadon was revived by Harumi, he was absolutely, I guess, evil to the core. She only brought back the evil parts, but Garmadon, even so nowadays, isn't really completely evil. Garmadon, when he was first introduced, was of course Ninjaga's big bad guy. After he was bitten by the Great Devourer as a child, Garmadon began to turn evil, but it wasn't by choice. Garmadon turned evil essentially just because of the Great Devourer's venom, and overall he was not an evil character. This was proven in Season 2 when he was kind of purified of the evil. He basically settled down with Misako and Lloyd just like the old days and eventually just tried to, I guess, regain his humanity, if you will. Garmadon actually did sacrifice himself as well in Season 4 of Ninjago, and that pretty much, I guess, added on to his redemption story, if you will. Garmadon, when he came back though in Season 8 and 9, again, he was brought back as a purely evil being without any type of, I guess, remorse for anyone, really. He kind of was as evil as you could get, and I do agree that that version of Garmadon should have been on the most evil villains list, but Garmadon as a character, I feel like overall deserves a spot on this list because, of course, he did redeem himself. Garmadon decided to help out in March of the Oni against the Oni, and while he wasn't fully there yet, his humanity hadn't fully returned, I could tell that it was trying to. I could tell that Garmadon was kind of, I guess, thinking to himself what humanity was and what his place was, and throughout the entire March of the Oni special, I never really got, I guess, a sense that this Garmadon was completely evil, if that made sense. Even at the end of March of the Oni, when the Oni were defeated, Garmadon, instead of staying around and conquering everything, decided to walk off on his own, never to be seen again. And as stated in Season 11, Garmadon is not a threat anymore, so the actual Garmadon that came back as purely evil by Harumi nowadays isn't really seen as a threat, so what does that tell you? It tells me that Garmadon has redeemed himself once again, and he's still kind of out there, but he's not doing evil things, he's just kind of doing his own thing, so that's why Garmadon has made it onto this list. Next up, we have the Ice Emperor. Of course, this one is pretty standard stuff. I mean, the Ice Emperor was just Zane, mind-controlled by the staff of Forbidden Spinjitzu, so it's really not that big of a deal. It's kind of obvious why this character isn't the most evil villain out there, because it's just Zane. I mean, Zane went ahead and redeemed himself afterwards. As the Ice Emperor, though, he did commit mass amounts of genocide, which should be mentioned and should be brought up, but overall, Zane as a character, he's not evil. He's one of the least evil characters throughout Ninjago's entire lineup, so obviously he made it onto this list, as the Ice Emperor was the only time that he was technically evil, but that was more of a result of Vex kind of manipulating Zane behind the scenes, while Zane was under the influence of Forbidden Spinjitzu. So that's kind of why the Ice Emperor is on this list, and there's not a whole lot to say about that. The Ice Emperor character himself just kind of speaks for himself, if that makes sense. An explanation for him isn't really as needed as, say, a few other entries on this list, so that's why the Ice Emperor kind of takes up a spot on this list among some of these other villains. Next up on the list, I do need to talk about Master Yang. Now, Master Yang is an interesting case throughout Ninjago. He is, I guess, an evil sensei, if you will, an evil master. He kind of imprisoned a lot of his students way back in the day and kind of forced them to be his slaves for all of eternity. That's not such a good thing to do, but in Day of the Departed, he was kind of redeemed in that way. Yang was kind of the main antagonist of the Day of the Departed special, and once Cole actually figured out what Yang's issue was, in a way, he kind of helped him out. Master Yang was just super worried about being forgotten and not, I guess, being remembered at all, even though he was the creator of Jujutsu, and he definitely would have been remembered in that way, but that's neither here nor there. Master Yang basically was worried about being forgotten, and Cole kind of reassured him that he wouldn't be, and then Yang was fine. Yang kind of redeemed himself when he sent Cole through the vortex instead of passing through himself like he initially had intended, and overall that kind of redeemed his character, for me at least. Master Yang wasn't the best written character in Day of the Departed, but he definitely had one of the better redemption stories, I'd say, out of all of the villains throughout Ninjago's run, actually, I'd say. Master Yang's only only redeeming quality is his redemption, in my opinion, and it definitely does deserve a mention on this list, because he's not so much evil as much as he is kind of confused. So I decided to give Yang a mention in this video for that specific reason. And lastly in the video, I do need to mention PYTHOR. Now, PYTHOR is an interesting case. PYTHOR has pretty much been all over the spectrum in terms of being completely evil and being completely good. He's kind of good when it benefits him, but he's sort of evil when it kind of benefits him as well. He kind of is in the middle, if that makes sense. We first saw PYTHOR in the initial season of Ninjago, and he easily manipulated Lloyd right away to, I guess, turning him over to the rest of the snake tribes, and eventually he became the Snake King. So obviously in the first season, PYTHOR was pretty much as evil as you could get. His intention was to awaken the Great Devourer, presumably to allow Serpentine to rule once again over Ninjago, but unfortunately for him, his plan kind of backfired and he was eaten by the Great Devourer. He showed up again in season 3, basically with a brand new look and a brand new, I guess, color scheme, which was a result of him being digested by the Great Devourer, but he was kind of working for the Overlord at the time. He was responsible for the Digital Overlord's upbringing, and it is kind of interesting to see how his character developed. He went from being kind of confused evil to being entirely evil in season 3, and that's pretty much, I guess, as evil as we had seen PYTHOR. In season 4, we basically saw PYTHOR return as an ally, which was kind of strange, considering how in season 3, he was basically as evil as he could be. In season 4, he was actually an ally to the ninja, and that's just because he wanted to go ahead and, I guess, destroy the fake imposter Anachondrite led by Master Chen, so that kind of makes sense in that way. But PYTHOR, as it is, wasn't really completely evil in this season, and it's pretty much something that was kind of unreal for his character at the time, and it's something that we weren't really used to. But anyway, PYTHOR did redeem himself in this season by working with the ninja and the elemental masters against the Anachondrite army, and even the deceased Anachondrite generals praised PYTHOR for his role in this recent conflict, for his bravery and a few other things. So yeah, that pretty much says a lot about PYTHOR right there. Unfortunately, PYTHOR in Day of the Departed, the next time we saw PYTHOR's character pop up, he wasn't entirely good at that point. He didn't help out the ninja like MORRO did. He basically tried to weasel his way into Yang's ranks, and then when it didn't work out for him, he kind of ran away, promising to return to Ninjago at some point to conquer it, but we haven't really seen him since. So PYTHOR is kind of all over the place in terms of his evil level. I would even go as far to defend PYTHOR's, I guess, redemption in season 4 as being something of note, because I feel like that's how his character truly is. I don't feel like he wants to be evil. I feel like he feels like he needs to because he's an Anachondrite, and the Anachondrite were the most feared Serpentine tribe of them all. So in that sense, I don't think PYTHOR is entirely evil. I just feel like he's a little confused in that sense. So that'll pretty much do it for PYTHOR, and that'll pretty much do it for this video. Let me know down below whose redemption story you thought was better, and of course not every villain is on this list, so if there's a villain that you feel like should be on this list of the least evil villains throughout Ninjago's run, let me know down below in the comments. And hopefully you guys enjoyed this video. It was kind of fun talking about some redemption stories here. I especially liked talking about MORRO, HARUMI, and GARMADON, so hopefully you guys enjoyed listening, and hopefully you guys enjoyed this video. If you haven't seen my video on the most evil villains, I highly recommend you check it out. But in the meantime, that'll pretty much do it for this video here. Thanks a lot for watching, guys. If you enjoyed, be sure to like, comment, subscribe, do all that fun stuff, and check out the links down below in the description for my other forms of social media. As always, big shout out goes out to my Patreon supporters, including once again the marvelous Jan. Thank you guys so much for watching this video once again. My name is TannerFishies, and with that I bid you farewell.